Picture this. It's March 28, 2024, Beijing, a packed arena. The lights go down and a 54-year-old man walks on stage, slightly thinner than usual, visibly nervous. He pauses, takes a breath. Then he says, "This is the last major entrepreneurship project of my life." The crowd goes silent. Then he reveals a car. A sleek, fast, jaw-dropping electric sedan, priced below a Tesla Model 3, and tells the audience his team of 3,400 engineers spent 3 years and 10 billion yuan building it from scratch. 10,000 orders come in within the first 4 minutes. And just like that, Xiaomi, a company that started by selling smartphones online out of a small Beijing office, had just entered the car business. But here's what makes this story truly extraordinary. This wasn't a desperate pivot. It was the logical next step in one of the most audacious business strategies ever executed. Today we're telling the full story, the founder, the near death, the comeback, and why no company in the West has ever dared or managed to do what Xiaomi is doing. To understand Xiaomi, you have to understand Lei Jun. He was born in 1969 in Shantou, a small city in Hubei province, China. His parents were both teachers. His father earned $7 a month. 7 a month. In a country still scarred by the Cultural Revolution, the family had almost nothing. But young Lei Jun was obsessed with electronics. As a kid, he would take apart radios and put them back together. He wired up the first electric lamp in his village using 2 batteries, a bulb, and a handmade wooden box. At 18, he got into Wuhan University, one of China's most prestigious. He devoured 2 years of coursework in a single year. By the time he graduated in 1991 with a computer science degree, he had already read every single book in the computer science section of the university library. In 1992, he joined a small software company called Kingsoft. He rose fast, became CEO by 1998, and in 2007, he led Kingsoft to an IPO on the Hong Kong Stock Exchange. Along the way, he co-founded JOYO.com, China's answer to Amazon. When Amazon came knocking in 2004, they bought it for $75 million. By any measure, Lei Jun was already a success. He was a respected venture capitalist, backing early-stage companies. He could have coasted, but something was eating at him. He had watched Steve Jobs. He had studied Apple. He believed that great technology should not be a luxury. He believed that a kid in rural China should have access to the same world-class devices as someone in San Francisco or Tokyo. In 2010, at the age of 40, he walked away from a comfortable life and started over. On April 6, 2010, Lei Jun and 7 co-founders gathered in a small office in Zhongguancun, Beijing's tech hub, and founded Xiaomi. The name means millet in Chinese, small, humble, the grain of the people. Fitting. Their first product wasn't even hardware. It was MIUI, a custom Android operating system, released in August 2010. Xiaomi didn't have a phone yet. They just built better software than anyone else, released it for free, and let users install it on existing Android phones. The strategy was genius. They built a community before they built a product. Thousands of fans were already invested in Xiaomi before Xiaomi had anything physical to sell. Then in August 2011, they dropped the Mi 1. It had the same specs as high-end phones from Samsung and HTC and sold for half the price. They sold it exclusively online, with zero advertising budget, relying entirely on their fan community to spread the word. It worked. By 2012, just 1 year after launch, they had sold 7 million phones. By 2014, they were China's #1 smartphone brand. That same year, they raised $1.1 billion at a $45 billion valuation, making Xiaomi the most valuable startup in the world. They were being called the Apple of China, but then came the fall. By 2015, the cracks were showing. Xiaomi had been so focused on online-only flash sales in China that they missed a tectonic shift. Consumers wanted to touch phones before buying them. Oppo and Vivo built massive offline retail networks across China's smaller cities. Huawei upgraded its supply chain. And suddenly, Xiaomi's flash sale model looked dated. Shipments collapsed from 70 million phones in 2015 to just 41 million in 2016. Xiaomi fell from the top brand in China all the way down to 5th place. The press coined a word for them: unicorps, the fallen unicorn. No phone company had ever clawed back from that kind of drop, not Motorola. Not HTC, not Sony Ericsson, nobody. It was past midnight in Beijing. Lei Jun was pacing an empty conference room, staring into the void. He made a decision: rebuild from the ground up. He personally went to suppliers, renegotiated, fixed the supply chain. Xiaomi opened its own retail stores, Mi Homes, designed to feel like Apple stores but warmer. They launched their India expansion aggressively. When the US sanctioned Huawei in 2019, Xiaomi was perfectly positioned to take its place in international markets. By 2020, Xiaomi had sold 149 million smartphones. They entered the Fortune Global 500. Revenue crossed 200 billion RMB. They had come back from the dead, but Lei Jun wasn't satisfied. Because smartphones alone, even at that scale, weren't enough. He was thinking bigger. Much bigger. Here's the question the whole investment world was asking by 2020. Why is a smartphone company selling rice cookers? Air purifiers, robot vacuum cleaners, electric scooters, laptops, smart TVs? The answer is deceptively simple and brutally hard to copy. Lei Jun called it the triathlon: hardware, internet services, new retail. The idea is this: every device you sell creates a user. Samsung actually comes closest. They make phones, TVs, home appliances, chips, and more. But Samsung's divisions operate largely independently. There's no unified software ecosystem stitching them together. No single operating system from your pocket to your kitchen to your car. Apple has deep ecosystem integration, but deliberately refuses to play in white goods, appliances, or automobiles at any meaningful scale. Their margins are too high, their brand too premium, to sell you a $30 rice cooker. And Western companies? Companies like Google or Amazon have smart home ambitions, but no hardware manufacturing DNA at scale, no supply chain, no factories. Every user generates data. Every data point lets you sell more services at far higher margins with almost zero additional cost. And every new product you add to the ecosystem makes every existing user more likely to stay. A Xiaomi user who owns a phone is moderately loyal. But a Xiaomi user who also has a Xiaomi TV, a Xiaomi air purifier, a Xiaomi robot vacuum, a Xiaomi router, and a Xiaomi washing machine, all talking to each other through HyperOS, is essentially locked in, not through hostility, through convenience, through a seamless experience that competitors simply cannot replicate piecemeal. By 2025, Xiaomi's AIoT platform had nearly 1 billion IoT devices connected, excluding smartphones and laptops. Nearly a billion. The Mi Home app serves 400 million monthly active users. Think about that for a second. Now here's the question you're probably asking. Why hasn't Apple done this? Why hasn't Samsung? In March 2021, Lei Jun stood in front of his board and said, "We are building a car." The room was stunned. This was a company that made phones and rice cookers. Cars take decades, billions, and an entirely different set of engineering expertise. Lei Jun announced a $10 billion investment over 10 years. He personally assumed leadership of the project. He called it the last great entrepreneurship of his life. His reasoning was elegant. The smartphone era is plateauing. The future of personal technology is the intersection of your phone, your home, and your car. If Xiaomi owned that entire triangle, what he calls human times car times home, they would be not just a hardware company, but an operating system for life. 3 years later, the SU7 launched. Then in June 2025, Xiaomi launched the U7, their first electric SUV, within 18 hours of launch. Locked pre-orders hit 240,000 units. And in Q3 2025, just 19 months after selling their first car, Xiaomi's EV division turned profitable. Something Tesla itself took over a decade to achieve. Faster than a Porsche Taycan, longer range than a Tesla Model S. Priced 30,000 yuan cheaper than a Model 3, the car runs on HyperOS, the same OS as your Xiaomi phone. Slide into the driver's seat and your phone's apps, maps, and music are already on the 16-inch dashboard. No Bluetooth pairing, no CarPlay lag. It just works. First 10,000 orders, 4 minutes. First 50,000 orders, 27 minutes. By end of 2024, over 100,000 SU7s delivered. But Lei Jun wasn't done. In May 2025, Xiaomi announced the Jing01, their own in-house mobile processor chip, built on a 3-nanometer process. The most advanced chip fabrication node in the world. The tape-out fee alone cost $20 million. The entire team was so excited when the chip samples arrived, they drove to the airport to pick them up personally. It worked on the first try. An extraordinary achievement in semiconductor design. With the Jing01, Xiaomi joins an extremely exclusive club: Apple, Samsung, Huawei. Companies that design their own flagship silicon. This gives Xiaomi tighter software-hardware integration, lower costs, and independence from Qualcomm. By 2025, Xiaomi holds over 43,000 patents globally and employs more than 21,700 R&D personnel. The World Intellectual Property Organization ranked them 8th in the world for patent applications in 2024. This is not a copycat company anymore. This is a deep technology company. Let's look at the scoreboard. vs Apple. Apple dominates premium. Xiaomi is eating into the premium segment from below. The Xiaomi 15 Ultra at $892 versus iPhone 16 Pro Max at $1,199. Xiaomi can't match Apple's brand prestige yet, but they're closing the gap on specs while undercutting on price. Apple has no EVs, no connected home appliances, no competing ecosystem for 80% of the world. vs Samsung, closest competitor in breadth, but Samsung's divisions don't talk to each other like Xiaomi's do. Xiaomi's HyperOS is a unified layer Samsung doesn't have. And Samsung doesn't make EVs. vs Tesla. Tesla wants to be an energy and II company. Xiaomi wants to be a lifestyle. OS. The SU7 isn't trying to beat a Tesla. It's trying to make a Tesla owner switch everything to Xiaomi. Xiaomi trades at 18x forward earnings. Tesla trades at 163x. The market is still figuring out that these two companies are on a collision course. vs BYD is the EV volume king, incredible vertical integration in batteries and manufacturing. But BYD doesn't have Xiaomi's software ecosystem, brand loyalty in consumer electronics, or global aspirations beyond cars. Xiaomi's own targets: become one of the top 5 automakers in the world. Enter the European EV market by 2027. Invest 200 billion RMB in R&D over the next 5 years. And by Q2 2025, for the first time in Xiaomi's history, more than 60% of revenue came from non-smartphone businesses. The triathlon model had finally matured. Here's the thing about Lei Jun that most people miss. He's not trying to build China's Apple. He's not trying to build China's Tesla. He is trying to build something that has never existed before. A company that is the operating system of your entire life, your pocket, your kitchen, your living room, your driveway, all seamlessly connected, all intelligently integrated, all accessible to the average person at a price they can actually afford. And Lei Jun, the kid who wired the first electric lamp in his village with 2 batteries and a wooden box. He's just getting started. In 15 years, he went from a small office in Beijing to the Fortune Global 500. From smartphones to home appliances to electric cars to custom chips, each step planned, each step patient, each step building on the last. No Western company has done this. No Western company can do this the same way because the combination of manufacturing culture, software talent, community loyalty, and sheer cost discipline required simply doesn't exist anywhere else in the same form. Is Xiaomi perfect? No. They face real competition in every market. The EV space in China is brutal. International expansion is hard. Geopolitical risk is real. But if you ask which company has the boldest long-term vision, the most coherent strategy across hardware, software, services, and mobility, the answer in 2025 is increasingly unmistakably Xiaomi. That's it for today's GBA Insider. If you found this valuable, share it with someone who still thinks Xiaomi is just a cheap phone brand. They need to watch this. And if you want a deep dive on Xiaomi's financials or their EV roadmap specifically, let us know in the comments. Until next time.